In the meantime, I will attempt to open your minds and reveal to you some of the esoteric meaning behind what you read as literal meaning in the mysteries. And you will be amazed if you listen very carefully. You might learn. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to do one of the things that I love to do most. That's to part the veil and peek behind the shroud of mystery that hides the secret religion of the ancient brotherhood. That which people like Malleus Maleficarum believe in. Albert Pike, Alfred Boyd Kuhn, Manly P. Hall, George Bush, William Jefferson Clinton. And you will begin, I guarantee you, if you listen carefully, and if you can think, you will begin to see the light. You see, they believe that the Western world has too long and fatuously labored under the delusion that a pious and devout disposition fulfills the whole requirement of true religion. Not so, they say. Ancient sagacity knew that piety without intelligence or religion without philosophy was insufficient and even dangerous. It knew that general good intent was not safe from aberrancy, folly, and fanaticism unless it was directed by the highest powers and resources of the mind. And remember always that this is what they believe does not make it true. And the mind itself, they say, had to be fortified with specific knowledge of the nature of the cosmos and of man and the relation between the two. Following the dictum of the sage Hermes Trismegistus that the vice of a soul is ignorance, the virtue of a soul is knowledge, the scriptures of old inculcated the precept that with all man's getting, he must first get wisdom and understanding. These were related to his well-being as health to his navel and marrow to his bones, and would alone give him a crown of eternal life. These things were pronounced more precious than all the things that he could desire. The Council of Illuminati therefore laid down their systems of cosmology and anthropology, which have become, by immemorial tradition, the Bibles of humanity, universally reverenced, and in them were given the ordinances of life, the constitution of the cosmos, the laws governing both nature and mind, and they still constitute the Magna Carta of all human action guided by intelligence. For they were the first institutes embodying the Principia and Fundamenta of all moral behavior, the only true chart and compass to guide human effort in a line of harmony with an overshadowing divine plan of evolution for the cosmos. The corruption and final loss of the basic meaning of these scriptures has been, in the whole of time, they believe, the greatest tragedy in human history. Like Shakespeare's tide, which taken at the flood leads on to fortune, but omitted casts all the rest of life in shoals and quicksands, the wreckage of the esoteric gnosis in the centuries following Plato's day, culminating in the debacle of all philosophical religion about the 3rd century of Christianity's development and ushering in 16 centuries of the Dark Ages, has thrown all religion out of basic relation to true understanding and caused it to breed an endless train of evils, fanaticisms, bigotries, idiosyncrasies, superstitions, wars, and persecutions that more than anything else blacken the record of man's historic struggle toward the light. And if you understand that portion of their philosophy, then you know why they hate Orthodox Jews, fundamentalist Christians, and members of the Nation of Islam. They believe that the most frightful of all historical barbarities owes its incidence directly to the decay of ancient philosophical knowledge and the loss of vision and virtue that would have attended its perpetuation. So what then must be the importance of all of this information that they say restores to the Scriptures of ancient wisdom the lost light of their true original meaning? In a very real to them, and direct way, the salvation of culture and a free spirit in the world is contingent upon this restoration of the ancient intelligence to modernity. And thus you see the springing up of the old pagan religions in the New Age movement and in other organizations and movements throughout the world. You see, they believe that for man at this age, he's had new and mighty powers of nature suddenly placed in his hands, but yet he lacks the spiritual poise and sagacity to use them without calamity, the message in the movie 2001. Most strangely, the control of the lower physical, natural, or brute forces by the mind, or reason, was the one central situation primarily and fundamentally dealt with in the sage tomes of antiquity. And to effect that control in a perfect balance and harmony, and to train the reasoning intellect in the divine art of it, was the aim and end of the arcane philosophy which I have revealed to you as the mysteries. Ideology in the Western world has endlessly vacillated back and forth between the cult of the inner spirit and engrossment in objective materialism, while ancient philosophy taught that the true path of evolutionary growth, if you believe in such a thing, was to be trodden by an effort that united the forces of the spirit with those of the world, the lower disciplined by the higher. The whole gist of the esoteric, or hidden, or secret doctrine was the study and mystery of the powers engaged in working out the evolutionary advance so that the aspirant, or initiate, might be able to align his cultural effort in consonance with the requirements of the problem and the end to be achieved. Without this guiding data and this evolutionary perspective, modern man, they believe, is totally at a loss how to focus his endeavor and is unable to point his direction in line with anything more fixed and basic than his next immediate objective of apparent desirability. In other words, they aspire to social engineering. He has neither a knowledge of his origin, a chart of his path, an inventory of his capacities, or a vision of his goal. Hence he travels the long road, still a benighted wanderer without compass. He can but recoil from one mistaken plunge after another, learning sporadic lessons from pain and misfortune, the way that most people learn, the way of the sheeple. The ancient torch that was lighted for his guidance, he has let burn out. You see, this lamp was the body of ancient philosophy. In this critical epoch in the life of the world, this philosophy proclaims afresh the message of what they believe to be the lost truth, the lost word, the lost phallus of Osiris, the lost light, if you will. They believe that there were three ancient and long discredited sciences that have had a surprising renaissance in popular fancy and scientific interest. One that I have struggled to teach you for many years is symbolism. The other two are alchemy and astrology, which are absolutely worthless and useless to any and all of you without a knowledge and a deep, abiding knowledge of the first, symbolism. You see, you read the alchemical works as if they were literal truths, but they are esoteric tomes bearing a hidden message. And astrology is the great metaphor of the hidden religion of the mysteries. And they never used it to foretell the future. That was for the profane, the uninitiated, the ignorant, who believed that a great happening in the sky would foretell some great happening on earth. Astrology has particularly come into a general vogue, but ladies and gentlemen, on a basis which still inclines conservative positivism in science and scholarship to regard it as allied closely with popular superstition. In its predictive or fortune-telling aspect, it is generally looked at askance, because that has absolutely nothing to do with it. It is, in fact, a hoax, a con job. The ages-old machinations of what we used to call mediums today are more likely called psychics or channelers, but nevertheless, hoaxes they are, and con men and con women who happily take your money, listen to you talk a little bit, and then from that read your present and your future. Anyone who understands human nature can do those things. But you see, there is another side on which it has pertinence and value that has not been recognized in the modern revival, and on which perhaps the mysteries believe is its most legitimate claim to consideration, and this is its function as symbolic theology, as I've been telling you for years. Unquestionably, cosmic operation, cosmic significance lie behind the 12 constellations of the zodiac and the 36 or more other stellar configurations. The planisphere, or chart of the heavens, was doubtless the first of all Bibles, pictorially edited, since man could not write and had no printing presses, and since over a period of time oral history tended to be changed or forgotten. They planted their beliefs in the great constellations of the heavens, to be passed on forever and ever and ever. Not quite simply and directly, but intrinsically, all Bibles are amplifications and elaborations of the original volume of ideography, first written on the open face of the sky, charted in the zodiac and heavenly maps, and later transferred to earth and written in scrolls and parchments. Man was instructed to fashion his new body of spiritual glory after the pattern of things in the heavens. The heavenly, or zodiacal man, and a graph of the structure and history of this celestial personage was sketched by the enlightened sages in the configurated star clusters. You see, zodiac comes from the Greek word zodion, a small living image, signifying that it is a graph of the microcosmic life of man, which is cast in the form of the macrocosmic life of the universe, or of God. In the New Age movement, it is known as above, so below. You've all heard it. Man's own small body is a replica of this body of God, made in its image and likeness, according to the beliefs of the esotericism of the secret religion. The vast frame of cosmic man was outlined in the scroll of the heavens, the solar systems and galaxies being living cell clusters in his immense organism, and thus pantheism was born, as they believed that everything was linked and had an effect upon everything else. Thus, squishing an ant as one walked down the road could, they believed, have some effect upon some far distant future. A deal of this adumbrative symbology, elucidating theological doctrinism, is set forth in the body of the of the works of people like Manly P. Hall, Alfred Boyd Kuhn, Albert Pike, and many others. But there is a group of its data that strikes so deeply into the heart of general theology that it is given at the outset for the sake of its overwhelming impressiveness to most, if not all, initiates of the Brotherhood. You see, they believe that it proves to be so conclusive an evidence that biblical theology rests more solidly than has ever been believed on zodiacal backgrounds, that its presentation must be admittedly a matter of great moment. It traces the unsuspected significance of two of the 12 signs, Virgo and Pisces, in the very heart of the New Testament narrative. So let the listener picture before him the ordinary zodiac with the house of Virgo at the western equinox point and that of Pisces directly opposite on the eastern side. The simple fact that they stand 6 months apart will presently be seen to assume great importance in gospel determination if you understand and believe the esoteric message that those of the Brotherhood believe is encoded and written below the literal interpretation of the Bible. This exposition must begin with a puzzling and hitherto unexplained item of ancient religious myth that the Christs, that's plural, Christs, the sun gods, the Messiahs, all were depicted as having two mothers. Now how, one asks, could there possibly be rational significance in this? It has been put aside as just some more of the mythical rubbish and nonsense of early paganism. But the profundity of pagan intelligence, hiding sublime cosmic truth or a hidden story under glyph and symbol, has not been dreamed of by most of you. And I'm telling you, you had better not only dream of it, but seek it out and study it. The depiction should not have created incredulity, seeing that the gospel Jesus himself, the dramatic figure of the divine principle in man, announced it categorically in declaring to Nicodemus that, quote, "Ye must be born again," end quote. Nicodemus asked if this means that we must enter a second time into our mother's body and experience a second birth in the natural manner. But Jesus replies that we, quote, "must be born of water and the Spirit," end quote. Attention must be directed to the fact that the Latin word spiritus, translated spirit in many passages of the Bible, means as well air or breath. One of the great keys to Bible meaning is the series of the four elements of ancient mythicism, which are earth, water, air, and fire. And if you've read anything ever of the alchemists, you are acquainted with those four elements. The body of the physical or natural man was conceived as being composed of the two lower, earth and water, while air and fire, representing mind and spirit, commingled to make the higher or spiritual man. Was never meant to be taken literally. Jesus' statement to Nicodemus, then, could have been rendered born of water and air. And John the Baptist uses three of the four elements when he states that he, the forerunner of the Christos, and therefore a type of the lower natural man, indeed baptizes us with water, omitting earth, but that there cometh after him one higher than himself, who shall baptize us with the Holy Spiritus, air, and with fire. Ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to tonight's lesson in your in your education of what lies behind the veil of the mysteries, Freemasonry, the Ancient Order, the Rosicruci, the Lodges of the Knights Templar, the Knights of Malta, etc. Don't get what I am giving you as something that you must believe or that I believe For that is not the case. And whether it is or is not is of no matter whatsoever. You cannot fight a battle unless you know your enemy. And you cannot know your enemy unless you understand your enemy, his life, his morals or lack of morals, his religion or lack of religion, his philosophy, his tactics, what he reads, where he obtains his spiritual sustenance, if he has such a thing. And when these people are in power, ladies and gentlemen, it makes absolutely no difference what you believe in the great scheme of things when you are dealing with these people. You must understand what they believe, for if they have the power, what they believe is what will affect you. It is what they believe that they will bring into law. It is what they believe that they will use to enslave you or to set you free. It depends upon who it is and what they believe. And I can guarantee you, while this nation may have begun with a majority of its adherents and citizens worshiping the God of the Christian Bible, it is not that way today. The men who hold the power in the halls of government at all levels, city, county, state, and federal, believe in the philosophy that I am giving you now. And so you had better take heed and pay attention. And at this point, we have to go into a discussion of God, and before I can do that, lest you misunderstand and take literally what Malleus Maleficarum was telling you the other night on this broadcast, that he was a Christian and that he believes in God, making or trying to make you believe that it is the God of the Christian Bible. He is a liar. He lies by omission and by twisting. And he lies by mingling or commingling terms, which you, the sheeple, take to mean that he believes what you believe. And that is not true. So I will attempt now to acquaint you with the heart and soul of one of the core beliefs, one of the root beliefs of the mysteries. They believe in two fires, the supernal and the infernal. They believe that it is impossible, absolutely impossible, to present the one in entire disseverance from the other. And the background for the clarification of this aspect of the interpretation can be readily set up, and I will cover all of that information in subsequent broadcasts. But the whole doctrine of hellfire has fallen so infinitely remote from even the outskirts of the true understanding of what they believe that I've got to set it before you so that you can grapple with it in good earnest now. They believe that the deplorable state of modern exegesis in this segment of theology impels one to a vehement expression of disgust at the harrowing grotesquerie of rendering which a comparison of ancient esoteric meaning with current superstition so readily excites. You see, but this situation has to be evident as a general matter and should need but little reinforcement beyond the revelation of gapping chasms of difference between the old and the present readings. When you read these things, you read them literally. Yet this theology of a hell of fiery torment has suffered such an unconscionable distortion from its primary bearing and has afflicted the mind of mankind with so outrageous a delusion that every consideration points to the necessity of a vigorous handling in the interests of sanity and social benefit. You see, before Dante wrote his Inferno, nobody ever heard of a devil with a pointed tail and horns and writhing souls burning forever in the fires of hell, being poked by pitchforks and in various manners and ways caused to suffer for all eternity. The perversion of original teaching regarding the lower fire has cast over the collective mind of the Western world the foulest hypnotic obsession which it has ever suffered. The strangling tentacles of this theological devilfish have spread over the whole of Christendom and have compressed the spiritual genius of that segment of mankind into the coldest and most inhumane bigotry known to history. These are their own words, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll tell you where some of it comes from later. You see, they hate you if you are a Christian, if you are an Orthodox Jew, if you belong to the nation of Islam, if you are a Muslim. They hate you, especially if you are a Catholic. They hate you. They believe that for ages the doctrine in its misconceived form has deprived the Christianized world of its reason and opened doors to the entry of every superstition. They believe it has snuffed out the native spark of human brotherhood and brought between man and man the lurid glare of its own devilish mischief. For the fiercest fires of persecution and fiendish cruelty ever lighted upon earth flared out under the impulsion of the fantastic theological teaching that the acts of one's brother may be the impious machination of the devil. They look at it as too gruesome and ghoulish a chapter of horrors to even linger upon. Yet the same philosophical benightedness out of which this atrocious monster of diabolism and demonism has emerged has never to this day been dispelled by the light of wisdom. A more sensitive humanity of the present, sickened by the ghastly spectacle of past tortures and holocausts, inspired by fiendish zeal, has tried to drop the subject as far as possible out of sight, and has imposed a taboo upon its exploitation in religious quarters. This refers directly to the Inquisition of the Catholic Church during what is known as the Dark Ages. And they believe that the darkness has not yet been dissipated, and the monster is still capable, on provocation, of glaring fiercely out of the murks. And ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you that that monster is real. It is there. I have seen it, and some of you have heard it in the calls made to this broadcast and others. Those who are so religiously zealot that they would burn at the stake again anyone who dared to disagree with their own personal bigotry, their dogma, their religion, their race, even. So there are some things about the mysteries that I do agree with, and that is one. Further, they believe the light that would have enabled the Christian world to descry the beast in his true outlines and character has never been rekindled since it was extinguished about the 3rd century. And those of you who have studied religion know what happened in the 3rd century. That's when they met at the Council of Nicaea, condemned all the books that disagreed with the dogma of the emperor or pope, and chose the books that would make up what is now known as the Christian Bible in the Catholic Church. Now, they believe that had that light been available, it would have revealed that the fiery dragon of the pit, and listen to this carefully, folks, because this is one of the key elements of the beliefs hidden behind the veil of the mysteries. It is what Malleus Maleficarum alluded to when he called in on this broadcast that Monday night, when he said that he believed in God and that he was a Christian. This is what he believes. This is the truth of it. You see, but he was speaking in a metaphor even then. He believes that had that light been available, it would have revealed that the fiery dragon of the pit was none other than God himself. His face begrimed with smoke, his features distorted by the grimaces of the beast through whose eyes he looked out upon this strange world, and his countenance luridly alight with the smudgy flare of the earthy furnace. Many of you have read Paradise Lost. Well, Milton's lakes of seething fire in Paradise Lost are a travesty of truth, unless, as the mysteries believe, it is taken purely as the symbology they are. You see, they believe, Malleus Maleficarum believes, Albert Pike believes, Manly P. Hall believes, Alfred Boyd Kuhn believes, George Bush believes, all of these people believe, William Jefferson Clinton believes, Newt Gingrich believes, Bob Dole believes. They believe Satan is the God himself on earth. They believe Satan is God on earth. They believe that it's incontestable. They believe that it is proven by the very name. The descending God was the light bringer, Lucifer, the bright and morning star, which is precisely the character assumed by the Jesus of the biblical revelation. Therefore, they believe Jesus was Satan himself, God on earth. They believe the Christian devil, the hated serpent of evil, Satan, is Lucifer, the God of light on earth, the bright and morning star, Jesus, Prometheus, the benefactor of mankind, God himself. That's what they believe. That's what they believe, ladies and gentlemen, and I could not go on where they speak of God without revealing to you exactly what it is. The information, ladies and gentlemen, which I have just departed to you, was written by Alvin Boyd Kuhn, Ph.D., in his book entitled The Lost Light, An Interpretation of Ancient Scriptures. He was a theosophist. He was one of the most prolific writers and revealers of the esoteric religion. He was a 33rd degree Freemason. He was a member of the Order of Rosicrucian and many others. He was a member of the Illuminati. He says it in his writings. All other Freemasons and members of the Brotherhood of Man who worship behind the veil in the lodges with no windows have all referenced Alvin Boyd Kuhn. They have written that he is one of the greatest of the 1,000 points of light. And indeed, he does not only speak for them, but he is the source of much of the knowledge that most of them possess. And so when Malleus Maleficarum said that he believed in God and he was a Christian, if you understand the definition of his terms, and you agree with those terms, then yes, he does believe in God, and he is a Christian. But make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, he does not believe in your God, nor does he believe in your Christ or your Christianity. Behind the veil, the 1,000 points of light. Do you really believe, ladies and gentlemen, that great men get up on platforms and make speeches and throw these terms and these words around, and when you question them, they say, oh, it's just, we just threw it in there. Doesn't mean anything. Baloney. Every word that they use, every word inserted in every speech, has a great deal of meaning to someone and is placed there specifically to convey a message. When George Bush spoke of the New World Order and the 1,000 points of light, he was talking to his brothers, heralding the dawn of a new age, the new dawn, the age of Horus risen in a new world order, a world where the old religion is to be cast out, where everything is to be cleansed and made anew in the image of the socialist utopian plan for the world. You see, if you would just go to your Bible and forget everything else that anyone ever wrote in that book and just read the words in red, you'll see that Jesus tried to tell you everything that I'm telling you tonight. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Seek ye the truth, and the truth will make you free. What is the new age? It's the age of Aquarius. What is the age of Aquarius? It is symbolized by the water bearer. And that has tremendous significance. Now, I'm not telling you to read the Bible to become a Christian or to injure your sensibilities if you're not a Christian. What I'm telling you is there's a message there written in red that no matter who you are or what religion, some of them are religion, or what religion you belong to, there is a message there that if you can see and if you can hear, there's a lot of reference to that in there. And what that means is if you understand the symbolic, esoteric language so that you can read what is hidden below the literal interpretation and stop listening to these maniacs standing up behind pulpits telling you all these lies. Because that's what they are. Everyone is deceived, even the initiates in the mysteries. And Albert Pike admits it in Morals and Dogma. He says that at each level of initiation, they are presented with the same symbolic story, but each degree has a different interpretation. So what are they to believe? He says in Morals and Dogma they never learn the truth until they reach the 30th degree when they are told that Lucifer is their God. And he doesn't mean that there is a red devil with horns and a pointed tail running around in some hellfire in the center of the earth, poking people in the butt with a spear. It is a metaphor for even deeper esoteric revelations. Whether you believe them or not, you had better learn them, you had better study them, because these people hold the reins of power. These are the people who control the atomic bombs, ladies and gentlemen. These are the people who built the Soviet Union. Now we'll continue, because now we can talk about God in their language, and you can understand that it is not your God they are discussing. See, they believe that since man's spirit is an indestructible fragment of God's own mighty spirit, truly a tiny spark of that cosmic intelligence and love which we call the mind of God, the ancients typified the divine element in man by fire. Remember, I told you that fire is the metaphor for the intellect. And in contrast, the lower or human element by water. The human element. And thus great expanses of water represent large numbers of people, souls occupying human or material bodies. The fiery soul of man is housed in a tenement of flesh and matter, which is 7/8 water by actual composition. The crossing of rivers and seas and the immersion of solar heroes in water in olden mythologies and the rite of baptism in theology signified nothing beyond the fact of the soul's immersion in a physical body of water, nature in its successive incarnations. You see, they believe in incarnation. They believe in past lives. Lieutenant Colonel James Bogrites believes in past lives. He sent his son for past life regression. He talked about it on the air and said his son in his past life was a soldier just like him. He said that he believes in reincarnation. And in the same breath, out the other side of his mouth, he tells you he's a Christian. I've been telling you for years, James Bogrites is an initiate, a warrior monk of the mysteries, a member of the Knights Templar. He is a Freemason, and probably much more. They believe that man is distinctly a creature compounded of two natures, a higher and a lower, a spiritual and a sensual, a divine and a human, a mortal and an immortal, and finally a fiery and a watery, conjoined in a mutual relationship in the organic body of flesh. And in the New Age movement, they take this literally and believe that the soul can actually leave the body and another soul come in and occupy it. They call these walk-ins. Heraclitus said, man is a portion of cosmic fire imprisoned in a body of earth and water. And speaking of man, Plato said, through body it is an animal, through intellect it is a god. Everyone for hundreds and thousands of years have pondered the meaning of the Sphinx, and no one ever understood exactly what it meant until I told you on this broadcast. The Sphinx personifies this principle in the mysteries. The Sphinx obviously was built by one of the ancient lodges of the mystery religion of Babylon. The Sphinx is put there to remind man that he is an animal who can think. An animal endowed with the fire of intellect. An animal within whose body dwells a soul. That is the mystery of the Sphinx. That is the only mystery of the Sphinx. That is the only message that the Sphinx can deliver. And I have never read it in any book, nor have I seen it spoken or written anywhere. It is what I have learned through the study of the mysteries. And I'm right. And the Brotherhood believes that this explanation is the truest basic description of man that anthropology can present. They believe that all problems spring from that foundation and are referable for solution back to it. They believe that man is then a natural man and a god. You see? In combination. They believe that our natural body gives the soul of man its baptism by water. Our nascent spiritual body is to give us the later baptism by fire. We are born first as the natural man, then as the spiritual. Or we are born first by water and then by fire. They believe of vital significance at this point are the two statements by St. Paul, and I quote, "That was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural." And he also said, "First that which is natural, then that which is spiritual." And again he says, "For the natural man comprehendeth not the things of the Spirit of God, neither can he." You see, I told you several years ago on a broadcast of the Hour of the Time that Saint Paul, as he is known in the Catholic Church, or Paul, as he is known in the Protestant religion, was a member of the mysteries. Everything that he wrote is written in the esoteric language. You see, if all that is true, then man cannot comprehend the things of the Spirit of God if he is the natural man. And as Paul says, neither can he. And of course not. For if that is true, he is not yet in that higher kingdom of evolution, and he must be transformed, transfigured, lifted up into a superior world of consciousness before he can cognize spiritual things. They believe evolution will thus transform him and nothing else will, and this is symbolized in the initiation in the lodge, when they are symbolically suffered a death in a coffin and then raised by the grip of the lion's paw and given a new name and thus said to be born again. Christians run around, they go to church, they become baptized, they become a member of the church. Then they fall out of grace, fall out of church, fall away from God, fall away from Jesus. And then they come back, they sit in church, listen to some preacher, they get some feeling in their chest, they rise up, run forward, and they're said to be born again. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. The Brotherhood uses astrological bases for portraying cosmic truths. The ancients localized the birth of the natural man in the zodiacal house of Virgo, and that of the spiritual man in the opposite house of Pisces. And you're listening to WBCQ, Monticello, Maine, USA. So according to the mysteries, these then were the houses of the two mothers of life. The first was the Virgin Mother, Virgo, the primeval symbol of the Virgin Mary. Thousands of years BC, Virgo gave man his natural birth by water and became known as the Water Mother. Pisces, the fishes by name, gave him his birth by the fish and was denominated the Fish Mother. The Virgin Mothers are all identified with water as symbol, and their various names, such as Mary, spelled capital M-E-R-I, Mary, spelled capital M-A-R-Y, Venus, spelled capital V-E-N-U-S, which means born of the sea foam, Tiamat, Typhon, and Thalith, which is all Greek for sea, are designations for water. On the other side, there are the fish avatars of Vishnu, such as the Babylonian Ionis, or Dagon, and the Assyrian goddess Atargatis was called the Fish Mother. Virgo stood as the mother of birth by water, or the birth of man, the first, of the earth, earthy. Pisces stood as the mother of birth by spirit or fire, or the birth of man, the second, described by St. Paul as the Lord from heaven. Virgo was the water mother of the natural man. Pisces, the fish mother of the spiritual man. And so, eventually there must be brought out an unrevealed significance of the fish symbol in the zodiac and in mythical religion. For it is of astonishing import, you see, in the mysteries. Water is the type of natural birth because all natural birth proceeds in and from water, even human. All first life originated in the seawater according to the theory of evolution, which came right out of this philosophy from the mystery schools preached to the world by a brother of the Illuminati known as Charles Darwin. The fish is a birth in and from the water, and it stands patently as the generic type of organic life issuing out of inorganic. The fish typifies life embodied in a physical organic structure. Organic life is born out of the water and is the first birth child of the water mother. And if organic life is in turn to become mother, its child will be mind and spiritual consciousness, son of the fish mother. In brief, water is the mother of natural physical being, and organic structure becomes the later mother of divine mind. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we do not tell you what to believe or how to believe it. We tell you the truth so that you can find your own way out of the darkness, so that you can find the truth, and so that if there truly is a light, you can determine which light is the true light, for they all say that theirs is the light. All of them. All of them. Ours is the light. I am the light. My way is the light. If you don't believe it, read it all. The way you get trapped in just one is that's the first one that anyone ever teaches you, or someone more persuasive comes along and persuades you that they are right. The truth, I think you may find, ladies and gentlemen, is that they are all in some aspect right and all in many aspects very wrong. You must discover what is right and what is wrong, because if you're not living your life in truth, then you are not living your life. You are living someone else's life. You're living in darkness, in lies, in deceit, in manipulation. Now, strangely enough, water is the type, ladies and gentlemen, of another thing which is still more germinal of life, namely matter. According to the mysteries, matter is the virgin mother of all life in the aboriginal Genesis. According to the mysteries, all things are generated in the womb of primordial matter, the old genetrix of Egyptian mythology. And according to the mysteries, it is by consideration of the nature of matter and its evolution that we are enabled to arrive at last at the true meaning of the double motherhood of life. For oddly enough, they believe matter is seen to exist in two states, in each of which it becomes mother of life at two different levels. Primordial matter, the sea of what seems to us empty space, is the first mother of all living forms. They believe that this is the primal abyss of the waters in Genesis, the source of all Darwinism. The Latin word for mother is our very word matter with one T left out, spelled M-A-T-E-R. And how close to matter is water. And organic structure is the second mother, parent of spiritual mind. All of the ancient books, ladies and gentlemen, always grouped the two mothers in pairs. All of the ancient books and the ancient philosophies said that they were called the two mothers, or sometimes the two divine sisters, or they were the wife and sister of the god under the names of Juno, Venus, Isis, Ishtar, Sybil, or Mylitta. In old Egypt, they were the first, Apt and Neith, and later Isis and Nephthys. Massey, the great esotericist relates neath to net. Net. You heard us discussing the netters the other night. Not many people upon the face of this globe understand what it was that we were discussing. Not many people upon the face of this earth have ever heard the name netters as applied to a group. And it took me many, many years of study to figure out exactly who were the netters and what did it mean. Massey relates neath to net, in effect, fish net. And in the Bible, it talks about the apostles casting their net into the sea. Clues to their functions were picked up in the great Book of the Dead. It says, Isis conceived him, Nephthys gave him birth. Or, Isis bore him, Nephthys suckled him, or reared him. The full sense of these statements was not discerned until they were scrutinized in the light of another key sentence which matched them. In the Book of the Dead it says, Heaven conceived him, the Tuat brought him forth. With this came the flash of clear insight into the mystery, for that which is to eventuate in the cycles of evolution as divine mind in an organic creature, man, is aboriginally conceived by divine ideation in the innermost depths of cosmic consciousness, or in the purely noumenal world, or again in the bosom of infinite spirit, where spirit is identical with pure, undifferentiated matter. Now that's a very difficult concept to grasp, but it is mirrored in the Egyptian statement that Isis conceived him. Matter in its invisible, inorganic state was the womb of the first conception. Isis is virgin, in effect pure matter, or matter sublimated to spiritual tenuity. The Tuat, on the other hand, is really earth, as the type of physical matter, or matter organic, aggregated into substantial forms, called by us physical matter. It is matter as substance, constituted and existent in the visible world in structural forms. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Isis was matter subsistent as empty space, and Nephthys was atomic matter, constituent of visible structural forms. The physical worlds, which we must now think of as floating in the sea of empty space like fish in the water, are the second form of matter, and their organic bodies of substantial matter give birth to the Logoi in the solar systems and to the Christos in man, according to the religion of the mysteries. So they believe that divine spirit is conceived in the womb of Isis, the first universal mother, and brought to birth in the womb of Nephthys, the second mother, the immediate incubator and gestator of its manifest expression. So you might paraphrase this situation by saying that a human child is first conceived in the love or mind of its parents, and later born from the womb of its physical mother. Thus life has two births, and must of necessity have two mothers. The only problem with this is it was written when that is the purpose of sexual intercourse, was to produce a child. Not so today. This philosophy would not stand up. Would not stand up in any single bar in this nation. Because children are conceived every day without love, without thought, without mind of its parents, and indeed, after that meeting of the bodies, in many instances the parents never see each other again in the rest of their life. You see, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter what you believe. It's all flawed in some part. All of it. All of it. Because it has all been pinned by the hand of man, no matter who or what inspired it. So they believe that life is spiritually conceived and materially born, or man may be said to be born as a natural creature from spirit into matter, and born later as a spiritual God when he emerges from his baptism in the water of the body and re-enters the bosom of his Father. Or finally, he is born first as man by water, and reborn later as God by fire, and the first birth was depicted as taking place on the western side of the zodiac, in the house or womb of the Virgin Mother, Virgo, because in the west, the sun, the universal symbol of spiritual fire, descended into organic matter in its setting or incarnation. And so they believe man is born as natural man on the west, to be regenerated as spiritual man on the east. Horus, risen, the new dawn. The source of light, of knowledge, of intelligence. Spirit's descent on the west makes it man. Its resurrection on the east, like the summer sunrise, makes it deity or God again. This is the death and resurrection of the God in all religions. It is the reason for the sunrise service on Easter. It is incarnation and return to spirit. It is the descent of the Messiah into Egypt and his exodus back to Canaan. And there's more. Oh, yes. Further scrutiny of such data brings to light links of connection with the Bible. The chief one is found in the symbol of bread in connection with both Virgo and Pisces. You see, Pisces is the house of the fishes by name, but it is not commonly known that Virgo in astrological symbology was the house of bread. Virgo in astrological symbology was the house of bread. And this is indicated by several items of ancient typology. You see, many years ago, many centuries as a matter of fact, in the precession of the equinoxes, the end of the year was marked by the position of the great dog star Sirius, the mighty celestial symbol of the divinity in man in the mysteries. And precisely at midnight of December the 24th, it stood on the meridian line from the zenith to Egypt. At about the same moment there arose on the eastern horizon the constellation of the Virgin, bearing in her left arm the Christ child, symbol of the Christhood, coming to function in man, and in her right hand the great star Spica, which is Latin for a head or spike of wheat. As in spike training. Symbol of that same divinity coming as celestial food for man. Wheat, bread. It must ever, ladies and gentlemen, be remembered that the gospel Jesus told us we had virtually to eat his body as food and drink his blood if we would inherit eternal life. So typism represented him as coming in the form of man, the babe Christ, and as food for man, the wheat. John speaks of the Christ principle in the words, quote, "This is that bread which came, this is that bread which came down from heaven." Now listen to me carefully. This is that bread which came down from heaven, that if a man eat of it, he shall hunger no more. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesus broke a loaf into fragments and gave to his disciples, saying that it was his body broken for them. And then we have Virgo established as the house of bread and Pisces as the house of fish. But the characterization of the two houses must be brought along to a more specific evolutionary reference. What are these houses thus delineated? What does it mean? They are, according to the mysteries, as at first, the two states of matter, but how to be taken in immediate reference to the life of man on earth. They are, in the final stage of the meaning, man's body itself, which consists of matter in both its invisible and its visible forms. You see, for man has a natural body, according to these people, and a spiritual body. Man's body itself houses the two mothers. The body is this double house of bread and of fish. And the next link is seen when it is considered that this physical body is for the soul the house of death, and in its regenerative phase, the house of rebirth. And while the rose represents the soul in the ancient order, the Rosae Cruci, and the cross, the matter or the body, signifying the death of the soul crucified upon the cross of matter, it is the house into which the spirit descends to its partial obscuration in the darkness of the grave of matter, into the night of death or incarnation, out of which it is to arise in a new birth or resurrection on the opposite side of the cycle, when the body dies and the soul is released from its prison of matter. A significant passage from the Book of the Dead recites, quote, "Who cometh forth from the dusk, and whose birth is in the house of death," end quote, referring to the incarnating soul. In a spiritual sense, the soul dies on entering the body in incarnation, according to these people, but has a new birth in it as it later resurrects from it. So the body is therefore the house of his death and rebirth, or the place of his crucifixion and resurrection. And truly, upon the soul's entering a new body, upon incarnation, all memory is erased and can be said to be death. The Egyptians had a name for the body as the locus of these transformations, which carry the central meaning of all theologies. This name now rises out of the dim mists of ancient Egyptian books to enlighten all modern Bible comprehension. The city of the body, where the Son of Soul, spelled S-U-N, of soul, sank to its death on the cross of matter to re-arise in a new birth, was called the city of the Sun, or in Greek, Heliopolis. But in the Egyptian, Anu, spelled A-N-U. The name was given to an actual Egyptian city, where, ladies and gentlemen, the rites of the death, burial, and resurrection of Osiris, or Horus, the two are the same depending upon whether the sun is setting or rising, were enacted each year. But the name bore a theological significance before it was given to a geographical town. You see, the name is obviously made up of Nu, spelled N-U, the name for the Mother Heaven, or empty space, or abyss of nothingness, and Alpha, privative meaning, as in thousands of words, not. So, capital A, coupled with NU, would then mean not nothingness, or a world of concrete actuality, the world of physical substantial manifestation. Precisely such a world it is in which units of virginal consciousness go to their death and then rise again. So all of you who think you've been born again, you haven't even begun to understand the meaning of the term. You have taken an esoteric philosophy and turned it into a literal meaning. Anu is then the physical body of man on earth. The soul descends out of the waters of the abyss of the Nun, N-U-N, or space in its undifferentiated unity, which is the sign and name of all things negative. The Nun is indeed our none, spelled N-O-N-E, our nothingness. Life in the completeness of its unity is negative. To become positively manifest, it must differentiate itself into duality, establish positive-negative tension, and later split up into untold multiplicity. And this, they say, brings out the significance of the biblical word multiply. Life cannot manifest itself in concrete forms until it multiplies itself endlessly. Unit life of deity must break itself up into infinite fragments in order to fill empty space with a multitude of worlds and beings of different natures. The primal sea, or mother, must engender a multitudinous progeny to spawn the limitless shoals of organic fish worlds. This, ladies and gentlemen, in the mysteries is the meaning of the promise given to Abraham that his seed should multiply till it filled the earth with offspring countless as the sands of the seashore. And if life was symboled by bread as the first birth, and by fish as the second, then we might expect to find in old religious typology the allegory of a Christ figure multiplying loaves and fishes. So are you surprised to find that the Gospel Jesus does this very thing, multiplying the 5 loaves and the 2 small fishes to feed a multitude? You see, this could be astonishing enough in all conscience, but it yields in wonder to the next datum of comparative religion, which came to our notice as a further tie between the Bible and antecedent Egyptian mythology. Who among you can adequately measure the seriousness of the challenge which this item of scholarship presents to gospel historicity? For a discovery of sensational interest came to light when a passage was found in the Book of the Dead, which gave to Anu the characteristic designation, quote, the place of multiplying bread, end quote. And here, in the long silent tomes of Old Egypt, was found the original, the prototype of the miracle of the loaves and the fishes in the Gospels of Christianity. And the meaning never before apprehended had to be read into this New Testament wonder. And at last, we were instructed to catch in the miracle the sense that the physical body, as Anu, was the place where the corpus of the Christ's deific power was broken into an infinite number of fragments and distributed out among a multitude of creatures in hungered after a 3 days fast or deprivation of the food of spiritual life in their sojourn in the 3 kingdoms, the mineral, vegetable, and animal, before reaching the plane of mind. And here are all the elements of the inner meaning of the Christian Eucharist, the broken but multiplied fragments of the body of the God distributed to feed hungry humanity. And as humanity is composed of 12 groups of divine conscious units, there were gathered up 12 baskets of fragments. And this episode of the Christ's ostensible life is found to be Egyptian in origin and meaning and symbolic in character. And indeed, Christ was written about and spoken of and celebrated long before the Christ of Christianity ever appeared upon this earth. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're going to leave you for tonight, because that gives you more than enough to think about. Now, I want to tell you once again, it doesn't matter if you believe this or not, or if I believe it or not. It matters not at all. For those who have the power in the world today, believe it. They believe it. And if they believe it, it will affect all of us, whether we believe it or not. What we believe makes no difference except in our own lives. In the world.
Can you hear me all right, Bill?
Sure can.
Great. Hey, I want to say you guys got a tremendous signal here in central Indiana on your new station.
Well, good.
I was listening to your the reading or whatever it was you were doing earlier this evening about the mysteries and what these people believe. And I wanted to take, I don't know, like a specific example. One evening a while back, you mentioned Ted Gunderson.
Yeah.
And the thing that I'm having a little bit trouble with fighting off is it would seem to me that it would be very difficult for people like Gunderson or Clinton or whoever you want to choose that they would actually believe the stuff.
Why? What? Now, see, this is what I don't understand. What religion do you belong to?
Christian.
Christian? Do you think it's any more difficult for them to believe that than for you to believe that God was born in a human body of a virgin mother on this earth and offered himself up to be crucified on a cross in order to absorb and take away sin from all people who, after that, believed in him?
Yeah, I do, and the reason is that I think there's more tangible evidence of biblical Christianity in nature, in nature and the world itself.
You're missing the whole point. See, you believe it, so it's easy for you to say that. But you're listening to me give you an arcane philosophy that you've never heard before or knew very little about. And so for you it's difficult to believe. Imagine yourself somebody from somewhere else who never heard of Christianity. Do you think it's any easier for them to believe your religion than it is to believe what you heard on here tonight?
Well, I see what you're saying, that belief is belief, and ultimately each person's going to believe what they've either heard or what they want to believe.
That's right. That's why they call it religion, is based upon strictly faith. You must have faith that it's true, or you can't believe it. There is no factual proof anywhere. There is no scientific anything that can back up any basic religion tenets of any religion on the face of this earth. That's why religion is called religion and science is called science.
I guess I understand that. I guess go back to Ted Gunderson, for example. He's a pretty logical guy, or he seems to, yet he's going around the country spouting off about this hydrodynamic bomb that he claims blew up Oklahoma City, when it's obvious that a person with a brain can look at General Parton's report and determine that columns that are a certain distance from the center of a blast
had to have shaped charges put on those columns. Absolutely.
Right. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure out what Parton is saying there, that the theory that it was done by one bomb is a bunch of crap.
Absolutely.
It's obvious. But how can a guy like Ted Gunderson go around the country ignoring that evidence and spreading this other theory? Is he actually know what he's doing, or is he a dupe, or
Well, you have to ask Ted Gunderson that.
Well, Ted's not going to tell me the truth.
Well, you don't know that. You haven't asked him yet.
You're right,
you never know. You never know till you ask him. Ted seems to me to be somebody who's been taken in by somebody else on some things. For instance, he claims he got that story from a very well-known con man named Reconasciuto.
Right,
who's in jail and who claims all kinds of things, including having flown George Bush to France for the October surprise.
Yeah, right. I've heard that story too.
The man is not all there, and anybody who believes that Reconasciuto is telling the truth is just not all there either.
Yeah.
But Ted might believe him. I don't know.
What is the? Do you know at all? What is the story? The real story behind Bogart's getting shot? Did somebody?
All I know is Bogart shot himself in the chest with a .45 in an attempt to commit suicide. Now that tells me that he had no intention of committing suicide.
Well, yeah,
and he must have shot himself with a bullet out of which he had dumped most of the powder because you can't shoot yourself in the chest with a .45 and then get up and walk out of a hospital 2 days later.
That's an interesting thought.
Bogreitz is an old military man.
Yep.
He's killed a lot of people. He knows how to kill himself.
Yeah. I never thought about reducing the powder charge. I never thought about that one.
Yeah.
Well, what would the purpose be for a fake suicide attempt on his part?
Say, how the hell do I know? All I know is it's phony.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
There's no man in this world who's ever been in combat and actually killed people and seen people killed would ever shoot himself in the chest with a .45 in the first place.
It'd be kind of a low probability shot, wouldn't it?
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it looks like I'm going to have to go back and do some more studying. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And remember, you know, I wasn't trying to attack your religion as a Christian. I was trying to get you to look at it because you expressed surprise that somebody would believe what you heard early on this broadcast. But, you know, many other people would express surprise that you or I would believe what we believe.
Well, the reason I express surprise is that part of the reason that I subscribe to the Christian religion and believe in the Christian religion is because it seems like, amongst other things, there's a great deal of tangible evidence for it. It's not just a matter of faith. There's quite a bit of, if you compare what the Bible says to the world that we live in, you see it explaining creation, the creation of living beings.
That does not explain Jesus Christ. That just explains the existence of God, which any reasonable person can see in the order of the universe and in nature around us. That's easy to see, but to believe in Jesus Christ and what He represents to Christians and what they believe He was and did and what the end result was of that action is, you can't see that by looking around in nature. That you either have to believe or discard altogether.
Yeah, I guess that element of it is strictly an element that you have to take on faith. I agree with you there.
Yes, and that's what makes Christianity Christian.
So mystery religions also have they obviously have their God or whatever they accept as.
Their God is them.
Right.
See, they allude to a God, and then they say that God is actually Lucifer on earth, and then as you delve into it and begin to understand it, it always ends up that it's man that's God.
Well, how do they explain the existence of the earth that we live on and their own existence?
I just read that to you tonight. They believe that is the springing forth from the nothingness of primordial matter. The original thought, desire, action. Those are the three sides of the triangle.
I see.
The triad.
So I guess
the trilateral.
For their purposes, triangle and everything else. I suppose for their purposes, that's just as valid of an explanation of their existence as the Christians' view of creation. Then.
Yes, they don't believe that there's some old guy with a long beard sitting on a throne up in heaven who waved his arm and said that there'll be light and grabbed up some dust and breathed air into it and made man.
Right. They just have a different.
In fact, they would say that what I just told you was absolute nonsense.
Right. They attribute it to some other process.
Yeah, they attribute it to the manifestation of an original thought which created in its being or bringing forth primordial matter out of the nothingness or the virgin.
Do you think it's possible too that there are people that are higher within the levels of illumination that maybe believe in the God that Christians believe in, but
they don't believe in anything. See, you're trying to read a lot of stuff in here that's not. All of this stuff that I gave you tonight is how they attract initiates, is how they build their organization, is how they lead their followers around by the nose. At the highest level, they don't believe in any of that. They don't believe there's a God. They don't believe there's a Satan. They don't believe there's a devil. They don't believe anything.
Well, I
They believe that man is here, and man, if he uses his intellect, can conquer it all.
I guess what I'm questioning that thesis on the basis of the Bible's teachings concerning the...
They don't believe in the Bible. They believe the Bible is an esoteric tome that's been mistranslated, abused, and misused by people throughout history, and that it was originally put together as a political manipulation of the Roman emperor, who at that time was the Pope, in order to rule the world. It was a merger of church and state, the cross and the crown. Some people want to go back to it. Look for that cross and crown, and you'll see people who want an emperor and a religion melded into one.
Isn't it equally possible, though, that the people who have constructed the mystery religions have created the system of thinking that you just described for the purpose of manipulating those others while having a different belief within themselves that they don't disclose publicly?
No, this is an ancient religion. This religion existed long before Christianity was even a spot in anybody's mind.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that it goes back to the very dawn of man as far as we can.
It started with the first guy who saw Prometheus strike a tree and start a fire, and he grabbed a branch and learned how to keep it going. And he learned to manipulate and control others with this knowledge, and he told them that there was something mystical or religious about it. He became the first king and the first priest.
So you don't believe, based on your readings, then, that there is any possibility that the people...
I just told you.
At the highest level...
You can ask me that question a million times, you're going to get the same answer. No.
Okay.
At the highest levels, they believe in man and man's intellect.
Right.
They believe that when you die, nothing happens. You just turn to dust.
Well, what is the motivation for them continuing this movement then, generation after generation after generation?
It's to conquer death.
But if those who have gone before are dead and they're dead, that's it. There's nothing. There's no afterlife. There's nothing else for them.
That's right.
What is their motivation? Why wouldn't they be more interested in what they can?
I told you a while ago. It's how they're attracted into these things. They don't get promoted to the top and learn the ultimate truth unless they're worthy of handling it. And by then, they're so hooked into the system, and they have so many blood oaths under their belt, they couldn't get out if they wanted to. They have no choice but to further the plan. Socialists and communists and people at the highest levels of the Illuminati do not believe in God or Satan. They believe that man is God, or that man is becoming God is a more accurate term for it. And that when they conquer genetics and they learn the last secrets of science, they will have a race of people, or leaders, as they call it, who will keep a slave race like us alive just to serve them, and they will live forever, conquer the universe, rule over matter and the whole known system.
What then is our role? As you said the other night, we're to resist it. To what degree are we to resist it? I mean, there's a lot of things that we could be doing right now that we as a society or as patriots or whatever, however you want to label the different people that are interested in this type of thing. There's different things we could be doing, all the way from education all the way up to active civil war. What is the...
I've told you 100 times, civil war is out of the question. Restoration is what we must be after.
And by that you mean the restoration of our constitutional form of government?
Restoration of constitutional Republican government, yes.
Okay.
That's the most perfect, best, most promising, most freedom-granting government that's ever existed on the face of this earth, and I've never seen anything better.
The reason I'm asking you these questions is because I listen to your broadcast and I read Veritas, but sometimes it's hard to put all these questions together.
I don't know why. I've led you with a personal example. I'm willing to give my life. How far should you go? Well, how bad do you love, or how well do you love freedom? I'm willing to give my life. I've already stuck my neck out. Long ago I stuck it out.
Right.
I knew my fate was sealed years ago. I'm willing to give my life because I know something. I know a secret that most people just can't seem to grasp. If you're not willing to give your life for freedom, you cannot be free. You cannot have it. You will never be free.
Yep.
Because it's easy to take it away from you. They just send a couple of guys up, big, brawny guys with muscles, with guns, or with baseball bats, and they say, you're either going to do what the hell we say you're going to do, or we're going to kill you. If you're not willing to die for freedom, you have just become their slave.
That's correct.
Well, you see, I'm willing to die for it.
I think probably...
If they came up to my home and took my daughter and put a gun to her head and say, you do what we say or we're going to kill her, you know what I'd say?
He'd say, go ahead and kill her and I'll deal with you guys later.
That's exactly what I would say. Yep. I would say kill her. But I would spend the rest of my life hunting them down.
Absolutely.
And I would kill them and all whom they belonged to.
Well, I think that kind of spirit was a lot more obvious to people who lived in the year 1776 than it's kind of been bred out of us now, and I think it's just now beginning to, be realized again.
Yeah. But you see, there's some people out there who would say, you were wrong. You let them kill your daughter? Man, I'd do whatever they said. Not understanding what they have just committed to.
Yep.
They have committed to become a slave and commit their children to slavery because they did not have the courage of their convictions, nor do they believe in anything worthwhile enough that they're willing to give the ultimate sacrifice so that it will prevail for further generations down the line.
It's basically selfishness, isn't it?
Yeah. That's what makes me more dangerous than anybody who would fight for world government or fight for this arcane bullshit philosophy or the United Nations flag or the Freemasonic Lodge or any of that crap. Because I'll die for my beliefs, and they won't.
Yep.
They're all cowards. That's why they hide behind lies and manipulation. They don't have the courage of their convictions to stand up and state their convictions and march to fight for them.
No.
They're manipulators, liars.
Our brothers against us to fight.
Yeah. Hold on just a second. And it is out of the way, so we may continue now. Does that give you a little better understanding? I've always led the charge. I've always given an example. I've never asked anyone to do anything that I would not do at our conferences. I have never eaten a bite of food until everybody there was fed. I believe if you're going to be a leader and you're going to ask somebody else to do something, you must be prepared to do it twice before they.
I agree with you, and what you've said is helping me to understand. It's a lot of information, and like I tried to say earlier, sometimes I only get it in bits and pieces.
Oh, I understand.
And it's hard to put it all together, but I'm headed in that direction.
Yeah, and forgive me if sometimes I'm not as patient as you might wish me to be. I've been at this for many, many years, and sometimes I find it absolutely frustrating when people cannot grasp what I know so well.
But you've only read 10,000 books, but I haven't.
Yeah, I know. I know, and I become very impatient because I want so much for people to understand and come out of that enslavement and that mental vacuum that they live their lives in for most of their lives. Yes. And I know exactly how that is because I lived most of my life that way before I began to quote, see the light, end quote.
All right. Well, thanks, Bill. I've enjoyed talking to you.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling. 520-333-4578 is the number. Where are you, Mike Nostrada? You keep telling me you're going to call. I haven't heard from you yet. I bet he sat up in his chair when he heard that. Good evening. You're on the air.
Bill, I've got a note stuck to my forehead.
Oh, really?
Rabbit stew.
Yeah. No, that's not it.
Okay. You said
although we did find a rabbit today in the yard that apparently a coyote had dismembered during the night, and found two little girls asking us a lot of questions about those ears and stuff scattered all over the yard. That was a little tough.
Bill, I think it all goes back to Scripture, what Jesus said in the parable of the sower, where the wayside hearer cannot understand the things of God. So anything else, like you say, this really explained it for me, that these men, most of them don't believe in anything.
At the highest levels.
But
the ones in between the highest levels and the lowest levels, they do. They believe all this nonsense that they're filling their heads with.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You see?
In other words, there is a certain amount of them that do believe in this.
To get into the lodge, you have to profess a belief in a supreme being. They don't tell you what that supreme being is, nor do they ask you what you think it is.
And ultimately, they say that supreme being is Lucifer.
Well, during all of those years of the ceremony and the symbology and the teachings and the speeches and reading the books and the teachings of the lodge, then they take the minds of these people and twist them around to believe what they want them to believe. See, they have them for a lot of years to play with their heads.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting. Good.
See, at the highest level, all of these people who join the lodges, all of these various lodges, they spend all these years looking for the secret that they've been promised. That they will be one of the elect, and that they're going to learn great secrets as a member of the lodge. If they ever get to the highest levels of the lodge, the only secret that they learn that there is how to use the promise of a secret to lead and manipulate all of the members below them.
Bill, where can you find out the symbols they use, the hand signals, and everything? I mean, how do you find this out? You go to the library, or I mean?
No, you're looking for a silver bullet. I told you 100 years. There's not one. It requires work, study, reading hundreds of books, sitting down and piecing together the puzzle.
Because I've seen them use these signals, in my, like I work in the building trade, and you see them, and I don't understand a lot of it.
The quickest way is to join the lodge. But if you do that, you have to take oaths that as far as I'm concerned, strips you of your soul.
Right, I would not do that, no.
And don't ever believe for a moment that those oaths don't mean anything. Grown men don't make oaths that don't mean anything if those grown men have any honor whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure they mean something, because apparently it's holding these people into the...
Oh, I guarantee you. It means exactly what they say.
Yeah, right. Right. It means something to them.
And if their oath in the lodge doesn't mean anything, what does their oath in a court of law mean? You see, they're liars. And when you ask them what they believe in and what it all means, and they stand there and lie to you for about 2 hours and tell you it doesn't mean anything, they're under oath. They cannot ever tell you the secrets of the lodge. They must lie to you, and they do.
Mm-hmm.
And the books in the lodge tell them to lie.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'll read the oaths to you. It says that they have to protect and shelter a brother, even if he's committed murder and treason.
Except for the murder and treason, right?
No. Murder and treason not accepted.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around.
Oh, no.
Oh.
See, that's how they get away with what they get away with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Now, I heard someone recently teaching about the Knights of Columbus and their oath, and now I don't know if this was, you probably know more about this than this man did, but he said that they put that fourth degree thing where they get the sword, that they put it to like a woman's body and kill the baby, for the Pope or whatever, I mean, does that sound familiar to you?
Unless I have the oath and can read it on the air, I'm not going to say anything, because anything I say could be misconstrued.
In other words, you're familiar with it then?
Yes, I am familiar with it, but I'm not going to comment on it. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Unless I can read the oath verbatim.
Okay.
And the ceremony, so the people understand.
You think you might want to do that sometime?
I don't know. I've done a lot of it on past episodes. I read what I think is necessary for people to know. All secret societies are subversive. I don't care what you call them.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what religion they pretend to belong to. or what religion condones their lodge, or whether they are condoned by a religion or not. It doesn't make any difference to me. All secret societies, I've studied them all. They're all subversive. I don't care what their name is, period. If they weren't subversive, they wouldn't be secret. I've learned that. There is no need for secrecy when people are not doing anything that requires secrecy. There is no need for secrecy if people are not doing something that they know the community would not approve of.
Exactly. It's like you turn the light on, all the rats take off. Hey, Bill, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Talk to you later.
520-333-4578 is the number. The number. By the way, the little lesson that I gave you at the beginning of the broadcast tonight was taken from The Lost Light by Alvin Boyd Kuhn. It was taken from the writings of Manly P. Hall. Albert Pike was taken from my own research, quite a bit of which was interjected in the what would you call it? The teaching? The lecture? Whatever you want to call it. And, how did we get all the way around there? That's a numero tres, huh? Well, we'll just get over here and see what we can do with it. And, let's do that. Okay, folks. A little thinking music. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yes, sir, Mr. Cooper.
Yes, sir.
I was basically wanting to inquire about Enya, my wife's favorite music. Is there something there? Because I know you said that every music you play on your show, there's something there.
Has meaning, yes.
Okay. Most of the time you can't even hear what she's saying because there's so much reverb and echo, but it's very peaceful music.
Very peaceful. If you listen to what she's saying, there are messages there, and they're pagan messages from the Celt religion.
That's what I was telling my wife. And, that's one of her favorite little groups there.
It doesn't mean they're bad messages. Some of them are really good messages.
Okay.
All peoples and all religions, it doesn't matter what they believe in, teach good things. They just don't always teach what other religions and other peoples consider to be good things. And some of them, from time to time, teach bad things, including Christianity, when they taught that it was good to burn at the stake people who did not believe what other Christians believed or what the Catholic Church dictated should be believed.
I totally agree, sir. But I like the music, the melody, whether you listen to the words or not.
Oh, I do too. I think it's some of the most beautiful music ever written.
Okay, sir. And not only that...
That's one of the reasons I use it.
Okay.
I try to use music that not only carries a message with it, but is aesthetically pleasing to not only me, but the listening audience. And I also use a lot of music that I know my audience has never heard in their life in order to sort of expand their feeling for music.
Well, personally, I've heard at least 80% of the music you played.
And good.
Some of the older stuff, I'm catching up with that. But Enya, yes, and even The Rose by Seal. Yep, I remember that back in WWCR you was playing that.
Yep.
I was also wanting to tell you, I'm calling from Texas here. And we got the Preparedness Expo.
Yeah.
And Bo Grice, I thought he shot himself. He's on the list. He's supposed to show up.
Ain't that something?
Oh, maybe I need to... No, I can't say that.
He must not have been too upset.
I ought to show him what a 45 should do, but I didn't say that.
No.
I'm just kidding.
No. We don't even want to joke about things like that.
I know. Not on air. I'm sorry.
No, not anywhere. We don't want to joke about things like that.
I wish him well. I wish he would figure out what he wants to do in life. And
well, I know what he wants to do in life. He wants to enslave the rest of us.
Okay, sir. Well, I appreciate it. My wife was interested because it's been Enya every song, and that's her favorite band. And I said, Debbie, grab all her cassettes. There's no words there in English. Because I could read the words, and knowing what I know, knowing what she knows, I knew there was something there. There's a reason for that, but the music is awesome. I mean, it's laid back, it's good work. But, yep, I guarantee you, if anybody can understand a word she says, because there's so much reverb and everything else, and speaks and whatever.
Well, you can if you're listening to it in your home on your own CD or tape player. You're listening to it over shortwave. I mean, you're lucky to understand what I say half the time.
Well, that's true. But at the same time, we have all our cassettes, but they don't put her words in there. You know, like a lot of bands actually put their...
Oh, well, you need to sit down and concentrate. I don't have any trouble hearing what she says. And you also have to understand that on a lot of the music that she does, she's not singing it in English. She's singing it in Old English or Celtic.
Celtic, yes. Yes. That's what I was saying. I'm telling Debbie, that you watch. It'll blow your mind. If you really know what she's saying, you might have a different perspective, but the music she loves, and I like it too, you know, but that's just music. I don't think there's nothing evil with music, per se, but...
Depends on the intent of the person who wrote it, what it says, and who it's aimed at.
Exactly.
But you have a right to...
There's a modus operandi there.
Yeah.
You're correct. I just want to double-check that, because I've never understood a word she ever said, so... But I like her laid-back music, so... I will relate that to my wife, 15 years, very happily married. And you are a blessing there. And Doyle,
hey,
I wish you the best, and you're a good apprentice. Pay attention to this man. Mr. Cooper is woken me up in what I thought was freedom. And I thought I was ahead of times, and all of a sudden I hear this one. So I want to congratulate you people and continue on. I'll support you all I can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you for calling. 520-333-4578. That's, let me see, where am I at here? Good evening, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Steve from Fort Myers, Florida. I just wanted to call to say thank you for risking so much to give the truth to the American people and the world.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, bye.
That's it?
Thank you.
520-333-4578. Thank you very much, and thank you for calling. Well, don't put me on a pedestal, folks. I'm human just like you, and believe me, I'll be the first one to fall off. I've always told you that. I don't want to be what I'm trying to get you away from. I don't want to be the person that you blindly follow. Never wanted that. Don't want it. Don't do it, okay? Good evening, you're on the air. Hello?
Mr. Cooper.
Yes, sir.
I've been pushing replay over and over. I'm sorry. I'm happy I got back on. I was going to ask you a question also.
Got back on? When were you on before?
I was just on right before the last caller.
Oh.
The one that's talking about Enya.
Uh-huh.
I got the Texas draw.
So what can I do for you?
Okay, sir, I was going to ask you about FM broadcasting.
Yeah?
One small question about, I understand that you guys turn your 101.1 off.
Yes.
To advertise.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what would I do if I rebroadcast a show of yours or anybody else's?
Why are you asking me? It would be your station. You do whatever you want to do.
Okay, I just thought it was something legal. I'm not putting you on the spot.
101.1 FM Eager is not owned by me. It's owned by a charitable trust.
Okay.
That belongs to my daughters. It is a non-profit foundation. Therefore, there can be no commercials on 101.1 FM Eager. It's a community service non-profit station.
Okay, sir. Well.
But what you do with your station is your business, not mine.
All right. Well, I'm just asking advice. So I really need to have a trust there. But I don't have the funds to do that. I understand. But I was just wondering, because if I rebroadcast a certain station...
You don't have to have a trust.
Well, I followed your rules as far as rebroadcasting yours.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, Swiss America, everything's off there. So...
Swiss America? We haven't done anything with Swiss America in a long time.
I've got some okay, sir.
Oh, I see. You're talking about the rules off the internet.
Just now, yes. I'm just now catching up with the time.
Okay, good.
But I'm just asking... If I rebroadcast another show that actually was saying buy this video or buy this tape,
That's up to you.
It's up to me.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that would be okay. Okay, sir. Sorry to bother you again. We're on the air here.
Yeah, you're on the air.
We're in Lake Dallas, 89.7.
Oh, okay. Very good. 89.7. Yep. Dallas, Texas.
It is.
FM. So if you
FM stereo.
Good. Excellent.
Y'all have a good one.
You too. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Very good. 89.7 in Dallas, Texas. So if you're listening on shortwave and you are in Dallas, Texas, tune in FM 89.7 and you can listen to that station. I'm sure he has some other good programming also. 520-333-4578. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Doug. I'm from South Carolina.
Hi, Doug.
Hey.
You have a strong signal here.
Hey.
Wonderful.
With all the Celtic music you have, you guys didn't have haggis, did you?
I don't think so.
Okay. I just wondered. I missed some of the shows. I didn't know what other people had called in.
You know what we had for supper tonight?
Yeah.
What?
No, I don't.
Want to take a guess?
I just thought it was haggis.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, that was your guess. Okay.
What did I guess? Haggis.
Oh, I thought you were referring to somebody who did Celtic music. I didn't even catch what you were saying.
Yeah, right.
Okay. No, that's not what we have.
Okay.
Not at all.
All right.
But sometimes I wish we had some scones and some of that good food.
Yeah.
What else can we do for you?
Well, I'm having trouble trying to figure out how to write my name. It sounds like a stupid question, but they want you to write it with the caps, small letters and caps.
Can you talk a lot louder, please?
Yeah. The way that a fiction person is, it's all capital letters in their name.
Yeah.
And the way your name is supposed to be for a sovereign is just the first letters capitalized.
Yes.
And also some people say you should write, your first name, middle name, comma, and then your last name.
That's correct. You know why?
Some people say you should hyphenate between your first and second name.
You can do that too, if you wish. But do you know why?
I'm not exactly sure why.
Your last name is not yours. Belongs to your family.
Okay.
Your name is your first name and your middle name. The last name is the family name. Belongs to the family collectively. Only your first name and middle name belongs specifically to you.
Okay. And it has to be spelled out, no abbreviations.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, my birth certificate in 1949, evidently they made a mistake and they didn't put it in all caps. Then they put it the right way.
I haven't seen it.
Have you seen yours?
I have seen mine, yes. But, it doesn't make any difference. If there is a birth certificate, you are owned by the state. You are a human resource. And they can pledge all of your work and productivity to back the national debt.
Yeah, I've been learning about it.
That's why, in 1933, they instituted the Department of Human Resources and began the requirement that all babies born must have a birth certificate, which is then sent to the Department of Human Resources.
Okay. But there's a way to get around all that, or revoke all that, isn't there?
Oh, there's a way to get around all of it. Yeah, it's all fraud, you see. You cannot be held to a contract, the terms of which were never explained to you. You did not enter into it willingly. Also, in a matter of a birth certificate, you are not a party of the contract because you did not sign it. You were not even of age to be responsible to enter into a contract. See, they scam people. They lie to us. They cheat us. They defraud us of our birthright. And it's all done by sneaky, underhanded lies. Because that's the kind of people they are. They are scum, puke-faced, lying, manipulating cowards.
Quite a shock to learn all this stuff.
Sure it is. It was a shock to me.
Yeah.
When I found out I'd been serving a system that was enslaving me for most of my life, I was incensed. Absolutely incensed. I was so angry you wouldn't even believe how angry I was. I jumped in a bottle of scotch for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, it'll take me a little while to get out of this stuff, won't it?
Yes, it will, but you can do it. And as a last resort, if they absolutely refuse to let you out, you can do what I've done. You can say, my rights come from God, not from you. I refuse to bow to your tyranny. I refuse to pay your tribute. And if you come against me and mine, I will defend myself with what the Founding Fathers gave me as a last resort against tyranny. And I'll die on my doorstep rather than to submit to you scum.
Like Braveheart.
You don't go out and kill them.
No.
You defend your Creator-endowed rights against them should they come to kill you or take your property. That's what we all must do. If every single person in this country would take that stand and take their stand with and for their neighbor, it would be all over. And we would have the restoration of Republican constitutional government.
Yeah, if we all woke up, right.
Unfortunately, most people are cowards.
Yeah.
Seems to be the state.
Well, we've been dumbed down, too.
Dumbing down is no excuse for cowardice.
No, that's true.
Once you've received the truth, if you continue to live in the fantasy, that's cowardice. But that's up to you.
Yeah, right. I understand. Well, I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for calling. 520-333-4578. We've got enough time for, I don't know, a couple more calls, whatever we want to do, I guess. The next, however many, whatever it is. Good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening, Bill.
Yeah.
Calling from Texas. Just got back from a lecture in Port Arthur, Texas. It was former President of Poland, Lech Walesa,
Yeah.
I believe. And earlier this week, in a town not far from there, Beaumont, Texas, I saw Shimon Peres.
Uh-huh.
And it's
Oh, you wrote me a letter about all this.
What's that?
Aren't you the one that, did you write me a letter about some of this?
No, actually, I called either late last week or earlier this week.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm thinking of. Go
yeah,
ahead.
and I got to see both of them. I took some notes, and it's weird that they, well, I guess it's not weird. They both seem to talk about the same thing. Shimon Peres kept mentioning, of course, he said democracy about 30 times, but he kept mentioning about what he was talking at a university, and he said he wanted to talk to the young people. That's one reason he came here. He talked about that they need to get ready and start changing their way of thinking about things. Of course, he mentioned globalization a whole lot.
Yeah, well, you know what he believes in.
Oh, yes. And I made a copy of a page out of your book, and I'm a teacher. I teach at a middle school. I'm trying to work my way up to teaching political science high school. But anyway, I made a copy out of your book of, you have a copy from a Look magazine, 1962, of David Ben-Gurion.
Yeah.
His view of the world in 1987.
Uh-huh.
Now, next to that, I put the biography that they gave us at the lecture of Shimon Peres, how he was handpicked in his 20s to be the Minister of Defense of Israel by David Ben-Gurion. So, I just see a connection there of one of the men who groomed him, and of course his view of the world. And I guess if people don't have your book, Ben-Gurion's view of the world in 1962, looking ahead 25 years, was he looked at the United States as having a planned economy, being a welfare state and a planned economy, and that there would be a world system, and it would be ruled from Jerusalem. And they would build a temple, I can't remember the wording, a shrine of the prophets.
Yes.
And they would have an international court there to settle all disputes, and of course there'd be a international police force, and there would be no more armies and no more wars.
Yeah, his was the Zionist goal.
The Zionist goal.
Yes.
Now, Lech Walesa tonight, I can't mispronounce his name, who doesn't speak any English yet, an interpreter. He's a devout Catholic, and I believe he was born and raised not far from where Pope John Paul is from.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned, of course, he mentioned a lot about the Pope, or the Holy Father, as he called him.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned how the Holy Father traveled to Poland when it was under communism and talked to the workers, and the Holy Father brought the truth. He said that several times to the interpreter.
Now, remember,
the truth from the Holy Father. That's when solidarity started.
Yeah, but solidarity is a communist concept written about long before it ever appeared anywhere there. Lech Walesa is a communist. Well, you can't be a communist and be a Catholic at the same time.
Okay.
Communists do not believe in God or Jesus Christ or anything else.
But communism is atheism.
But they do believe in world government, and so does the Pope.
Right,
that's the key.
Pope does. Now, what's funny is I have a book, I mentioned it the other night, about J. Edgar Hoover's study of communism, and I was sort of perusing it right before the lecture, and I got to the point where Karl Marx in the Communist Manifesto, one of the last slogans or lines is, workers of the world unite.
Yeah, that's right. That's solidarity.
That's solidarity, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
In the notes to the lecture, the wording was almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you how these lectures work. Well, I'm sure you know. They filter the questions. They don't allow you to walk up to the microphone. They give you a card unless you write your question.
Yeah, that's so that they can make sure that they're not asked anything that might be embarrassing or might actually tip the hand of what's really going on there.
Yeah, they never ask my questions. It's weird. But anyway, but Walesa said this because these were all such softball questions, about, how great you were in solidarity. And he said to the interpreter, now he has he's got a really good sense of humor. But he said to the interpreter, what are you scared to ask me some hard questions? So the college professor filtering the questions there, he even said, what is this, some kind of censorship? And so he read a hard question, and it was I don't know who it was, the auditorium was packed, but they basically said, well, your ideas of this globalism, you sound like a socialist. And that was basically the question, and Walesa went into this long spiel to basically talk about how evil communism was, and he basically, then in the last sentence, he said, I am not a socialist. But I tell you what, everything he said sounds like he's...
Well, he is a socialist. He's also a communist. He's also a liar.
Yes, that's what I was trying to tell those people. And what's very interesting, there was a man who made his way to the microphone now, and I noticed on his arm a tattoo. And this man had white hair, and he looked European. And he made his way to the microphone, and of course, you know what that tattoo was. It was a 5-digit number.
I didn't see it. How could I know?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the picture in my mind. But what I'm saying is, when you see an older man with white hair and he's got a 5-digit number on his arm, you think of a concentration camp survivor. That's what I was trying to say.
Could be, but not necessarily.
Not necessarily, okay. But he got up and he spoke Polish to Walesa.
Uh-huh.
And then he spoke English too, and the interpreter spoke. And he basically said, I'm from a place not far from where you're from, and I have property there, but it was taken away from me. And then he mentioned, and I ended up in, started in Auschwitz and ended up in Buchenwald, I believe you pronounce it.
Buchenwald.
And he was a concentration camp survivor.
Yeah.
and he's been in America since 1945, and I talked to him right after the lecture, and I heard him talk to somebody else, and what struck me was he said, they were asking what they thought of the lesson. He says, I don't see eye to eye with this man. He's talking about one thing, and he goes, what I really am about is what I've got from being here in America is freedom, and that's something he doesn't understand.
That's right.
And so I had to talk to this man. He was very interesting. He's been here since the 40s. He got a sponsor to send him over here to Texas, and he says he was telling people about freedom.
Yeah.
And,
Most people who...
he didn't go see Shimon Peres because he doesn't see eye to eye with this man either.
Yeah, I've got to cut you off and get in the last comment here. Most people who immigrate to this country from other countries come here for freedom. And when they get here, they can do this one right here. Okay, folks, good night. God bless each and every single one of you.